Here's things you need to know about the Oza Zambia Independence Diamond Jubilee in conjunction with SZDMV. We encourage you to fly into Reagan Airport. It is 15 minutes away from the venue and 2 minutes away from the hotel where rooms are reserved. If you need accommodation, we have a space show for $177 for king rooms and $204 for 2 queen-size bedrooms. If you need to share a room with someone, contact 678-851-6601. Meet and greet on Friday, October 25th at 6 p.m. We will have the Zambian Night event. Come in African attire or Zambian flag colors. We're playing Zambian music and serving Zambian cuisine. Venue to be announced. Then comes the main event on Saturday, October 26th at 7 p.m. The Oza Zambia Diamond Jubilee Dinner Gala will be held at Hyatt Regency Crystal City at Reagan National Airport, located at 2799 Richmond Highway, Arlington, VA 2202. Tickets are $150 until October. You can buy your tickets by Zelle to 352-988-7049 Oza number. After you pay your ticket by Zelle, send us a message on WhatsApp to the Oza number 678-851-6601 to give your name and email address. Your ticket number will be emailed to you. You can also buy tickets here on Eventbrite. Sponsors, vendors, and businesses, we have a treat for you. Contact us. And on Sunday, October 27th, there will be a farewell barbecue. This year, the farewell barbecue will be at the Zambian Embassy, 2419 Massachusetts Avenue, NW, Washington, 20008. So, what are you waiting for? Get your ticket now.
Good morning from Dallas, Texas, and welcome to ZBTR TV. I do hope you are having a wonderful weekend. We are back again. America Decides 2024. This is the fight or battle that Apostle Victoria started, and she just dragged me into it. Tag a friend and tell them the show is live. We are here to look at what Generation Z concerns in this election and what their concerns are. So we went and, found some special forces to come and help us with this discussion. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. Tell a friend ZBTR TV is live. And we are coming to you from the great state of Texas and looking forward to this conversation. All right, before I go any further with that, I want to show you something. So if you have not yet made your pre-order for, ZBTR has made this special Zambia at 60 t-shirts. So we want to encourage you to make your order. We may not have a table at an event, but we just want you to do the order in advance so that we bring it to you. Those of you that live in Dallas, Texas, I can bring it to you. We can agree to meet somewhere. This is the way the shirt looks at the back and in the front. All right, let's get serious now here with business. And let me introduce my guests, all right? Joining us from my neighborhood, my amazing niece and anointed, Dr. Victoria Scott. Good morning. How are you today?
Excuse me. I am doing very well. Good morning, Uncle Nathan, Reverend Nathan. Good to be on the show today. Good
You
morning,
ready for
everyone.
this? You ready for this?
As ready as I can be. I'm super excited.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
Now we have a special guest with us, Mhambi Musonda,
Good
joining
morning,
us
everybody.
from Maryland. Is it Maryland or
Yes,
DC?
Silver
Maryland?
Spring, Silver Spring, Maryland.
Oh, I know Silver Spring. I've been there.
Yes, right outside DC.
All right. Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Thank
Mohabi
you
is
so
an
much.
activist and is a student at Montgomery College right there. He's studying international affairs. So that's interesting. I asked him a question behind the scenes and I said, why international affairs? Would you like to tell us about that briefly? Why?
Well, again, I explained it to you briefly. At my
Uh-huh.
school, there's no political science degree, so international affairs is the closest that falls under that degree, that sort of career path or that educational path. But it's closely aligned. My grandfather was in international affairs. He was one of the top foreign policy officials in Zambia during the 1970s and 1980s. So I guess it does
Run in the family.
fall in the it
Ah,
does run in the family. So
Awesome.
politics, international affairs, we're definitely public servants in my family. So
okay.
It's
Excellent.
fantastic.
Excellent. All right, let's start with a nice break. Okay. I want you both to comment on what your impressions were. I believe you both watched the presidential debate, right?
yes.
You
Yes.
did. All right. Let's look at this and then tell me what your impressions were.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an
So when you saw that, what was the impression? Let's start with Mhambi since you are the guest here.
When I saw that, that was clearly a power move on the vice president's part. If you know anything about Donald Trump, is he's very much, he likes sort of stagecraft, and he's very he was an entertainer in his former life. So Vice President Harris, shaking his hand was definitely a power move on her part, and I think it defined the rest of the debate. So that was definitely a great power move by the vice president.
Okay, interesting. I want you to say more on what you mean when you say power move.
Well, if you know anything again about Trump, is that he's very domineering, and there were questions during the run up to the debate about whether they would shake hands or not. But I think Vice President Harris set a clear tone that she's not to be messed with when she went up and when she shook Trump's hand. I don't think Trump saw it, but it was clearly a power move on her part. I'm Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
All right, interesting. Because I don't think when he debated Biden, they shook hands. Did
No, they didn't shake
No.
hands.
they? They didn't shake hands. Oh, okay.
No.
Okay, interesting. All right, Dr. Scott, what was your impression when you saw that?
Yeah, in fact, originally when the debate was on, I was in another meeting, so I missed that first part. So I had to go back and I watched the whole thing again, and so I had to kind of tell myself, look at it through fresh eyes. I felt like it kind of took Trump off guard because she's coming on there and she's setting this stage of, hey, this is going to be peaceful, it's going to be diplomatic. Like Mhambi said, she's setting the stage, and I felt like it looked like he was a little taken aback, like, wait, what's going on? Why are we shaking hands? What's going on here? But it looked like she was setting the pace for what she wanted, and to really own that stage. Yeah. So it was pretty interesting to me.
It was.
All right. I forgot something I told myself I'll do at the beginning. Everybody watching, remember, we are doing this from a Christian perspective and would like to sort of get some views on why a Christian should vote the way they vote. All right. The Bible tells us in Jeremiah, somewhere here, it says, Jeremiah 29, it says, seek the peace of the city where I have caused you to be carried away. Remember when the children of Israel were taken as captives in Babylon? So he told them, God said, seek the peace of the city where I have carried you to be captives. Pray for the Lord for it, for in the peace, therefore, shall you have peace. All right. He told them, build houses, get engaged. economics of the place where you are. So that's why we're doing this. We came to America as immigrants. We have to get engaged in what is going on as Christians, and every decision that is made. Don't fool yourself by saying, "Oh no, this doesn't concern me." It does
Right.
concern
It
you.
does.
Right.
All right. So that's what. Mhambi, what kind of conversations are you having about the upcoming elections as Gen Z, your generation? What are you guys talking about
Well,
amongst yourselves?
I think as you've seen, this is a critically important election, and I think in my own personal life, I do volunteer work outside of classroom. I'm involved civically, and so I do some work. In fact, a few days ago, it was National Voter Registration Day, and so after one of my classes at school, I had the opportunity to volunteer. Spend an hour with the League of Women Voters, and we were volunteering different students. We were registering different students to vote. I think there's a lot of optimism, certainly since the vice president has taken over and succeeded Joe Biden in the Democratic ticket. There's a lot of optimism among young people. In fact, if you look at polls before President Biden dropped out and after he dropped out, the level of engagement among young people, particularly in this election, has skyrocketed. I think there's a lot of hope and optimism about the future, and hope and optimism about the way government can effectively work to change people's lives. And I think that's what you're seeing around, you're seeing with a lot of young people. If you go out to different events, I was at an event for a local political event, and there were a lot of young people who were there. So young people my age were engaged, were excited, and there's a lot of joy. And the joy is not the joy we're feeling is because there's hope, there's a sense of urgency, there's change. Michelle Obama said at the DNC, it feels like 2008 again for a lot of people. So there's just a sense of joy and optimism and hope that I think a lot of not just young people are experiencing, but people in general are experiencing, because this is an exciting time in history. That we have the opportunity to create a better world, not just only for us as young people, but for those who come after us. So I think what you're experiencing, what you're seeing with a lot of Gen Z voters is, again, hope and optimism, because we believe that the future is in our hands. And for a lot of folks, it's our first time voting in a presidential election.
Yeah.
I told someone I didn't realize this was my first time voting in a presidential election until I think a few weeks earlier. And I was just thinking, I was like, this is an exciting time for me personally, because I have the opportunity to
have a say.
Craft, a say. And that's what democracy is about having a say. And we're just excited because for the past I think 10, 20 years, if you look at what's happening across the globe, there's just been a lot of pessimism, and people just aren't fired up. But I think what we've seen over the summer and the last few months is that, I believe, I'm an idealist, so I always believe that at the end of the day, hope will always prevail. And I think that's what you're experiencing now. It's that the sense that, hope is prevailing.
Yeah, that's right. I was amazed, Dr. Scott, when I asked Mhambi to send me the list of pertinent issues, that the Gen Z electorate in this election thought were the pertinent issues. I was thinking that student loan repayments would be the number one issue on their item, but I was surprised. They said economy, education, health, America's role in the world, and immigration. And I was like, okay.
Right.
Really do underestimate these guys. Why, Dr. Scott, do you think this generation are concerned about immigration, America's role in the world? Why do you think they should be concerned about that?
Well, first of all, with young people, there's been a saying that we've been saying that which underestimates them when we say that they're the leaders for tomorrow. And that's actually incorrect. They're actually the leaders of today.
Today, that's right.
When you look even throughout scripture, you see God chose very young people. David, man after his own heart, was about 15. Joseph was 17. By the time that they were 30, they were sitting in a place of power and authority. So there's a lot more that they're discussing, a lot more that they're talking about. Even as early as age 12, Jesus said, I'm going to be about my Father's business. So there's a lot that they are aware about. And this is why, they're asking questions. For example, the economy, they're seeing how difficult it is to get things. They're learning quickly how money works, finances and wealth. These are things that affect their every single day life. They're thinking about where they want to go to college, the kind of lifestyle that they want to have. They are watching their parents work 2, 3, 4 jobs. For some of them, they're in different families. They're, we talked about this last time. They're being trained from a young age to be owners, that sort of thing. So that conversation, whether it's verbal or not, it's happening around them all the time. And they have that healthy curiosity to say, I want to know how this works. And so if they're looking back at this and they're saying, hey, I want a better, place for myself, they're already now thinking, what about where I'm going to be? They're looking at this and going, how does this need to improve? What would be my part in this? They're asking questions, they're learning, they're watching, they're sponges. So they're taking in a whole bunch of information. So that doesn't surprise me that they're saying, hey, something needs to change with the economy. In fact, I remember when I was 15, that's when I decided I wanted to be an economist. I wanted to be in finance because I wanted to know how this works. Even with the issue of, immigration, for them, it's even a bigger issue now because the world has become smaller with the internet. We've gradually had the internet grow on us. They came into that world. So they're going to think more about, when you think about the global, what is that? The global crisis with the ozone layer and all of those kind of issues.
Climate change.
Climate change. Thank you. They're more aware of that because they're going, wait a minute, the internet, this is my whole family. So of course I'm going to care what's happening in Bangladesh. If they're saying that's going to be underwater, versus where a lot of us, these things have had to grow on us. They've grown up in that world where with the internet, the world is their family. So they're more like America's role in the world, Africa's role in the world. They're more present with that.
Exactly.
You want, Mhambi, you wanted to add on to that?
I was thinking back yesterday. I was at church and we're having a 3-day conference, and the preacher yesterday talked about being God's elect, and that we're not meant to be tourists just passing through the earth. That we're meant to have an impact. And I think I really believe that this generation. That we have a divine mandate by God to really shift the order of the world, and that I think for far too long we've been stuck in the status quo. I really think that God is using people in the finance world. God is using people, up and comers in the public service sector. God is using college students who want to do different things, because I fundamentally believe that there's something peculiar about this moment that we're living in, and God is raising up leaders. He's raising up men and women. He's raising up people from different, backgrounds to really shift the world order and bring it back towards Him. So all of these, different issues, it's easy to get, bogged down. It's easy to get sad when you watch the news or when whatever's on social media. But I think we have to remind ourselves that we're not meant to be tourists in this world, that we're meant to have an impact. So regardless of your age, whether you are 12 or whether you are 72, as long as you're still breathing, you still have a mission. So go out and volunteer at the soup kitchen. Go out and mentor those kids. Go out and run for office. Do those things that God has called you to be. Because we're not meant to be tourists in this world, and that's why we have to vote, because we're not meant to be tourists. We're citizens of heaven, but we've been put here for a reason. And while we've been put here for a reason, we have to govern like Christ, and we have to put in people, we have to put in policies, we have to be Christ-like, and so we can show the world that the light of Christ is the pathway to go.
That's right. I like that. Let's not be tourists, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Whilst
right.
we are on this, let me just bring up this, although it was supposed to come towards the end of the show. What really is the issue with immigration? What is the issue with him? What are the issues with immigration?
I think immigration it's a very complex subject. So it's impossible to explain during our discussion. But I think it if you look at the last 20 or so years, immigration has been a hot button issue in American politics, and unfortunately,
it's not just a broken border, right?
No, it's not just a broken border. It's a whole system that's broken. But I think, unfortunately, some of our leaders in Washington and some of the leaders in the states, they play along, racial and cultural lines to, scare people. So I think the issue is much more, again, than a broken border system. It's the whole, I think just the whole apparatus is just broken. There was a bill at the beginning of the year that was, in fact, it was authored by one of the most conservative members in the Senate, and it was endorsed by the Biden-Harris administration. It was a bipartisan bill that would have added, pretty, robust protections to, the border security, and would have, really, strengthened the immigration system. It was blocked by some in Congress because, the former president sent out a tweet and said, oh, don't support this. So it's impossible to explain, but I think the issue is that we have some people in our leadership who, instead of, doing the right thing, instead of coming together to solve this problem, there are some who like to, play to, identity politics and like to scare people. But again, we're a nation of immigrants, as we said before. Everyone comes from somewhere, unless you're Native American. You come from somewhere else. My family's from Zambia, and they came here. So everyone's from somewhere else, and I think we have to get back to that sort of that basic tenet. Everyone's from somewhere else, and we all came here for opportunity. So we should strive to enhance those who want to come over here for opportunity. Yes, we are a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of law. So we can articulate those arguments. But because our politics is so corrosive, we can't do that. If we say that, oh, you're a nation of laws, you're being racist, or you can articulate both arguments at the same time. So I know that's not a direct answer, but it's very complex.
No, you've spoken well.
Yeah.
Dr. Scott, what's the issue with immigration? How should what should be the Christian eyes or Christian perspective on this issue?
On this be, in fact, I was reminded of that verse. The love of money is the root of all evil. Not money, but the love of it.
The love of money.
And so what I've found out with these issues, like Mhambi so willfully, so articulately said, that it's a complex issue. So in this regard, I would say always follow the money trail. If you're trying to get down to something that is a little bit hard to explain, follow the money trail. And just this week, I came across a statistic, and I was like, okay, and this should help a lot of people at least give some clarity on this. So here's where the argument is: $13 billion is given annually from the budget, national budget, to take care of illegal aliens. Okay, is what this is saying. So,
oh wow,
again, 13 billion.
13 billion. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, and so border. In terms of like the and I think that the overall budget is like 150, but 13 billion of that is used for the education of illegal immigrants. So, and this is coming out of taxpayer money. So what I'm seeing here, and this is in my humble opinion, I'm not saying Jesus told me this. This is just me doing the math.
Even Paul says it's not the Lord, it's me.
If you're looking at this and you're following the money trail and you need money from somewhere, where are you going to pull and say, hey, listen, let's revisit this? We have 150 billion that is designed, that's dedicated, for helping out the American people, and then 13 billion of that annually is going to take care of illegal immigrants. Maybe if we fix that issue, that's $13 billion into our pocket.
That's investing in America. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what you think is a concern is not a concern as much as it wants, as much as it's being portrayed to be.
Yeah.
You're following the money trail.
That's it.
And that's $13 billion we could put elsewhere.
Exactly.
So my discussion there, I like to get to the heart of the matter. So if in this regard, this is where I would ask those people, I would ask the people listening, when you're having those conversations, when you're electing these, these officials, it's getting back to that place of,
research. Yep.
Yeah, the money factor. What's the money factor going to be in this? And then from a Christian perspective, having foreigners amongst you is not a foreign thing. Obviously, yes, there are supposed to be guidelines about this. There's supposed to be law about this. God had even said, hey, listen, leave a little extra. That's the gleaning law. Leave a little extra for the poor. Leave a little extra for the foreigner. Treat them well when they come amongst you, that sort of thing. So, like Mhambi rightfully said, making sure that we're taking into consideration that this is a nation that is full of immigrants. And so it's a complex one. So we're taking right? It does exist.
It's not only complex, you have to be careful what
you have to get super careful what
exactly.
you
have to
this one.
line.
Everybody watching, we want to hear your comment.
Yes.
That's why I decided that we bring it up to the front of the discussion before.
Yes.
You have to walk a fine line.
It's a very fine line. It's a very fine line.
Dorsey, everybody watching, what? I mean, everybody's like.
It really is interesting because I'm telling you, because, you have that biblical guideline that's saying be kind to them, take them in. But you do also have to have laws. You just can't open up your doors to everyone and say, hey, just come
Everybody
in.
come in. Yeah.
So as a Christian leader, what should be your message to those coming into this country as immigrants?
I think honoring the laws of the land and, following what the Lord has laid on your heart, because everybody's situation is very, very different.
Everyone's situation is different.
And I have seen even in the Word of God, like just whenever you put a certain situation in a box, God goes in another story and just obliterates.
Yep. He's not a God of the status quo.
Exactly. No. So I think that even with here, it's not that immigration, they don't know who is here and who isn't here. They do. I think what they're
to waste, if I may use that word, resources on something that
exactly, especially if they're seeing somebody law-abiding, then they're staying out of trouble. They are, paying taxes, all of those kind of things. Yeah. So they're aware of a lot more. I think what they're trying to fight is this crime that's associated with it. And I can understand it, being from Zambia and some of the issues that we see there, like take for South Africa. I remember I was going in there with the kids. I had to prove that these were my children, and they have strict border rules there. You can't just bring
Yeah.
kids. You have to show these are my kids, birth certificate, a letter from their father, which had to be notarized, which was, this is my wife, this is her passport number, these are my children, their passport numbers. They're coming for ministry, because there was a lot of child sacrifice that was going on. So you just can't go in and out.
There's a lot of human trafficking.
Yes.
In time and
So I get where, it's important to have, security for your people. So anyway, for those coming here, first thing that I've always said, make sure that the Lord is sending you here, because when you're coming in, especially in His will and in His direction,
you'll manage.
Yeah, you'll be here doing the right thing and doing what you're supposed to. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. I'd like to say something. I think, again, it's interesting what you said about South Africa. U.S. border, immigration has gotten, you guys are much more wiser than me. So you would know U.S. immigration has gotten more stricter, especially after, 9/11. I'm pretty sure before the process was a little bit easier, you could come in and go out. But especially after, 9/11, the process to, enter the United States and become acclimated to U.S. culture and become a citizen has become more, regulated. But I like what you said, Apostle. You have to, if you're coming here for, if you have a vision in mind, and many immigrants come with a purpose in mind. Those who are, maybe you're walking from, El Salvador to the U.S. border, you're coming from, another country on the plane. You have a vision in mind. You have a purpose. And if you're aligned to that purpose, then, you will succeed in this country. We're a nation of immigrants. That's what makes up, the American, democracy. That's why our nation is so great, because we have different cultures who are contributing to what some have called, this melting pot. But again, we're also, a nation of laws. We just can't, have, open borders.
Right.
We just can't, allow everybody in. And I think for the most part, most immigrants are, hardworking, law-abiding citizens who, want to have a better life for themselves and their children and those who come after them. But I think, as the Apostle said, the folks who, if you see on the news, it's always, crime. It's always those bad apples that get the most attention.
Exactly.
And those bad apples that get the most attention.
That's what the issue is.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It doesn't reflect poorly on those who, who are law-abiding. That's why you have a lot of these people say, oh, the Mexicans are coming up from, so-and-so, and they're in caravans and what. It's the bad apples that reflect poorly, not just on Hispanic people, but also on people that look like us. Exactly. So it reflects poorly on all immigrants, like what's happening in Springfield, where they say, they eat the dogs and cats. I mean,
oh boy! When he said that, I was like, "Wait, what?"
Let's not go there.
It reflects poorly, but again, you have those. If you read into the Haitian community, those are people that came to the United States legally, and they're here for a purpose. But again, those bad apples, it reflects poorly on the entire system, and I think that's part of the reason why this system is so corrosive. But this topic of immigration is so
I like what Veronica says. The Bible also provides guidelines with what to do with a foreigner who commits crimes. Okay, God is God of justice and mercy. She goes on to say, concerning the money issue, we also mustn't forget that a lot of money is paid or poured into immigration coffers by applicants from all over the world. Okay, think visas, etc., which are approved or denied, no refunds. Yeah. I like that.
Wow. That's both my sisters.
I've always had, I don't know what I should say this.
Say it.
I've always had an issue with that visa thing and no refund. Okay. Anyway, the refund part is a different story. But, how many people, just think about how many embassies America has across the world. And
exactly.
That go through. It's very, very important. Whilst we're here, let's welcome those that are joining us. Miss Brenda, good morning.
Miss Brenda.
And
those were my sisters, Veronica and Valerie. Great
Uncle
points, guys.
Henry.
yeah,
Doc, good
Uncle Henry.
morning.
Dr. Musoma is responsible for Mhambi.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's he's responsible for
Awesome.
my
Yes.
presence.
yeah, we appreciate. Yeah, I mean,
Thank you so much, Uncle Henry.
there's so much we can say about Dr. Musoma, but we'll leave that
Yes,
another.
we would be here forever.
I know. I would love it to be here.
Auntie Sandra too. Auntie Sandra, good morning.
Sandra, always supportive and
Family, it's a family affair. Oh my
yes,
Yes,
goodness.
it is.
yes, it is. There's a lot of other people watching here, and Grace
Oh,
says
thank
proud of you, Mhambi.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
Oh,
family watching all
like
over.
you said, it's a family affair.
And
Hey,
they're watching in Zambia too, so it's
yeah,
that is
everywhere.
phenomenal.
this
Phenomenal.
is Chingumbe from Mongo. That's John Chingumbe watching from Mongo. We appreciate
Wow,
John.
Good
welcome.
afternoon.
They are following, and amazing everybody here. We have Mutale
That's
Katongo.
my uncle.
Good afternoon. Good morning.
All right.
Uncle from South Africa.
Oh, really?
He's residing in South Africa.
Wow.
Avena Jobe.
Yes.
Excellent. Hi, Ronald. Hi, Ronald.
Hey,
Hi,
my
Ronald.
brother. Oh, it is the family affair. Both my sisters
Family
on you.
affair.
My brother. Good morning. I love this.
Watching. All right. Yeah, as we continue our conversation here, let me just say again to everybody, please support ZBTRI. Has done some amazing t-shirts, Zambia at 60, and would like you guys to support us. Just if you get a t-shirt, part of the proceeds will go to, we're trying to support charities back home in Zambia, which take care of the elderly people, and that's the reason we are doing that. And also just to help us with operational costs. These things cost money, so to do anything. So that's why we are encouraging you. Please get in touch. There is the information. You can inbox me, or you can get in touch on Facebook. Those of you that have my number, it's over there. Just text me and say you like to have a T-shirt, and we're going to go from there. And when we come to DC Mhambi, we want to flood the city on Saturday morning with those T-shirts. So everybody, as we go around the day, enjoying the city, looking at stuff, we all need to look like that. All right.
Yes.
Love
Okay.
it.
Yeah, we all need to look like that. All right. The next big item here is the cost of living, the economy, high cost of living. That we can't run away. And by the way, let's make it clear. I know some people do not like it when you go this route. And yeah, high cost of living seems to be at the heart of issues. What are the factual issues? I know a few days ago, is it yesterday or the other day, they reduced what do you call it?
Interest rates.
They reduced the interest rates, and the job market. We're talking about America here. The job market they hired so many people, and so many jobs were available. The projection is the gas prices will keep going down. They're fluctuating a little bit here and there. Just less than a week ago, in my neighborhood, gas was $2.49.
I know. Same here.
Yeah.
Wow.
$2.49. Those who live in California, sorry, we need to pray for you. I know it's $5-6 somewhere there. So the economy, the high cost of living, Mhambi, is at the heart of things. What are the factual issues there, and what is the argument?
The economy is a top issue in every election. In fact, if you look at for American voters, what's your number one issue? I'm just talking about not just for young people, but American voters everywhere. The economy is always number one.
Always
Every
number one.
presidential election, the economy has always been the number one issue.
Everywhere in the world, even right
everywhere in
now
the world.
in Zambia, if you ask anybody about
Yes, it's the economy. Number one issue in Zambia as well. It's the economy.
It's the economy.
Everywhere, it's the economy. But the American economy, if you look at during COVID, the economy was it was a very weak economy, and I think unemployment was, I think, at 10% in June of 2020. So the high cost of living that many Americans experienced during COVID was astronomical. Now, compared to 4 years later, yes, people are still, struggling, and we should be cognizant of that fact that people are still, struggling. Inflation over the past, 2 years has, hurt the pockets of the American people. But if you compare the American economy to every major Western economy in the country, post-COVID, we are the ones that have recovered faster than any other Western economy in the world post-COVID.
Post-COVID.
Again, we said unemployment rate has gone down. I think we're at the largest stretch of, I think, private job growth. I think since the 1960s, we had record unemployment again. I think the last time we reached this record of low of unemployment, I think we're at 3% now, was in, the late, 1960s. So, and, they were saying that there was going to be a recession. Some financial analysts said, oh, there was going to be a recession last year. A recession didn't happen. So we have to articulate this to those who are watching at home and those who are going to be voting in the election. The economy overall, and I'm not an economist, but from what I've read, overall, the economy is very strong. The economy is, we're at if you compare to other nations, we have a pretty solid economic footing. But on the other hand, we also have to acknowledge that many, middle-class families are still, struggling. They're struggling with, expenses. They're struggling with, childcare expenses and other expenses. So we have to be cognizant of that fact, and this, again, it requires research. So you want to research the candidate or the different policies that best align with your pocket. Again, follow the money. It all goes back to the money. So yes, the economy is doing well.
When we say the economy is strong, what are we really saying?
Well, I mean, you can look at GDP growth. You can look at unemployment rates. Again, there's been a disconnect, and I understand why some people, someone once said that most people, when people talk about economic growth or when people talk about the economy, it all comes back to your wallet. So if your wallet's doing well, then the economy is doing well. If your wallet's not doing well, then the economy is not doing well. If gas prices are, if they're okay for your pocket, then the economy is doing well. So most people, again, they don't look at, they're not like me. I'm a political person, so I like analyzing the data and stuff. So, but most Americans, they're not, it's a minority, but most of them don't really pay attention to these trends.
Okay.
So again, the economy for them is what I'm paying at the grocery store, what I'm paying, at the gas pump. So there's a disconnect. But again, it's understandable because people are still struggling. So when you hear on the news the economy is doing well, there's a disconnect between that. And I think it's always been like that for decades, and it won't change now.
It won't change now. Apostle Dr. Vic, I want you to analyze this comment from Derek. Okay. Regarding the economy, I'm sure Kamala Harris must be saying, the lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance.
That's
Right.
Oh boy, that she's saying this for herself.
I want you to break what Derek is saying. What is Derek saying?
Well,
there?
I think just like what I said last time. Remember, whenever you're dealing, when it comes to finances in this country, remember those 5 classes that I talked about?
Yes.
So they are.
Mention them again. Some people who listening are watching for the first time.
Yes, there's 5 classes. There's the lower class, there's the middle, there's the upper middle, there's the upper class, and there's the upper.
Okay.
So for the psychology within each one of these classes is different and it's unique. So their experiences are going to be very different from one another. No brainer. So even with that, if I think for what he is saying that, it's fallen in pleasant places, at the end of the day, when it comes to things like tax benefits, inflation, the economy, whether you are Democrat, Republican, Independent, depending on where you are in those classes, for some, it's fallen in nice places because of the advantages that they have, the conversations that they're having, the psychology that is amongst them. They're not even experiencing some of these things. They're literally having to come and sit down and say, tell me what's going on, because for them, their reality is extremely,
It's much
different. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, even to Mhambi's point, I was looking at something here where, with that disconnect that's going on, I was looking at, what the causes of inflation, because that's a huge thing to where the economy is. And this is where, if we can discuss this a little bit, I'd love your input, even for those in the comments. One of them is devaluation. And I believe here in the last year, the American dollar was losing its value, right? Was it
on the global market?
On the global market. So those kind of things can affect inflation. Yeah, when a currency loses value relative to other currencies, imports become more expensive, which can lead to inflation. So all of those kind of things, affecting with the economy. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, gentlemen. For those of you in the comment section as well, what's been your view with this concerning where the American dollar stands? I think that has something to do with what's happening right now with prices, cost of living, cost of food.
And remember, in 2021, there was the not the, was it the shipping crisis where the supply chain. It was the supply chain. The supply chain in late 20, like towards the end of 21 into 22, where because there was just bottleneck of different issues, so products weren't coming in time. And then prices were going up. So we've slightly recovered from inflation compared to 2022 when it was at its peak. We've slightly recovered from inflation, but again, many Americans aren't feeling the effects. If you put on your sort of political hat right now, one of the problems that Joe Biden faced during his presidency, and I think Kamala Harris is trying to walk a fine line. How do I articulate the accomplishments of my administration?
Right.
Which there've been robust accomplishments. Yes, he has presided over record economic growth, but Americans aren't, and that's what we talked about before. Americans aren't feeling the benefits of my policy action. So I mean, if you're someone like some of my aunts and uncles who or cousins who don't really pay attention to politics, and you're hearing Joe Biden talk about how sunny the economy is, and then you look at your bank account and your money's a little funny, like, what are you talking about?
Right, exactly.
What are you talking about? Or if you're someone like me who pays attention and I'm like, yeah, the economy's doing so well, blah 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 blah, and I tell that to someone who doesn't pay attention to politics, they'll look at me crazy. So I mean, as the commenter said, yes, Kamala Harris. I mean, I would love to run in this type of economic state where yes, the economy is doing well, because every politician loves to run when the economy is doing well. But the question has to be for those who are more inclined towards the Harris campaign. But the question has to be, how do I articulate, yes, the economy is strong, yes, we've made economic progress, but many Americans are still they're struggling to feel the effects of that, and that's why people voted for Trump the last time. If you look at numbers, people, yes, Obama, he grew the economy. When he entered office, the economy was, it was the worst since 1929. Yes, the economy did do well under him, and he passed Trump a very healthy economy. But during that, if you look in, exit polls and different interviews with voters, especially in, small towns and stuff, people said, I'm not feeling the effects of this so-called economic recovery. And I think the same is today. People in America, regardless of political party, they're not feeling the effects. And again, what you said, Dr. Scott, there's 5 different economic levels. So if you're in the upper middle class, you're feeling, this economic recovery. Money's coming in, it's feeling good. You're like, oh, this is great. I'm having so much money. If you're rich, I mean, your wealth has been accumulating since the pandemic. So I mean, you're really happy now. Yeah. But if you're in the lower middle class, or you barely made it when the economy, when we went out of COVID, you're scraping by. You're not feeling this so-called economic recovery. So I think it's the economy. It's not, it's not about the numbers that come out of people in DC. The economy is really about, I think politicians and people in Washington, people in New York in finance, they don't understand that the economy is not about, the people in academia at the university who study, tax policy. The economy is really about how my pocket is feeling. And that dictates who wins Congress. That dictates who's in the White House. That dictates the governing system for the next 4-8 years.
And I love that. Uncle, if I can just chime in real quick. I love that because this is what I want people talking about and getting that voice across to these people who we are electing, that this is our train of thought. This is the kind of conversation that I'm trying to push out there to say, if we're talking this way, we're getting this conversation out there, we're getting them to listen, because we shouldn't get caught in the roller coaster of emotional argument.
Yes,
it's the same 2 topics.
Yes.
When there are things that are affecting us on a daily basis like that. You so well articulated that that message needs to be taken across the board and taken to the officials. Like, look, we have a brain and a mind over here.
Yes, we think too.
We need significant change on your end so we can feel it on this end.
So we can feel it.
Exactly. Yeah. Go ahead, Uncle Nathan. I'm sorry.
Yeah. There's a lot of comments here. Let's
I love it.
Says presidential policies take years to manage.
Yeah, that's a good one, Uncle Henry. Yeah, that's definitely true.
That's very, very important. And I think this argument also applies to the Zambian scenario.
Definitely
is trying to do. And on immigration, Kondowani says the immigration issue is taking center stage in the post-2024 U.S. election, with both parties under pressure to clearly outline their immigration policies. Yeah,
thanks. My uncle.
Okay. Yeah, it's a family of brilliant people.
Thank you.
Derek says today the dollar represents 58% of the value of foreign reserve holdings worldwide. The euro, the second most used currency, comprises only 20% of foreign reserve holdings. You all remember the BRICS people are trying to move away from using the dollar, right?
Yes.
The BRICS, the nations that are in the acronym BRICS.
Big deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big deal. Big right. This is important as well from Valerie. I think the food industry has taken advantage of inflation and price gouging.
Yes, that's true. Because
that's where candidate Harris is saying.
Yes, I was about to say that. But I think she gave a speech, or she put together a program about price gouging. And then some of the economists, again, these people who, really they're not talking to us. These people in high places are like, oh, you can't say that yet. That doesn't make any sense. Or why are you talking about price gouging?
Right. And she says
going out. Politicians, they have to go out to the people. And they have to listen to us.
Exactly.
Because when they listen to us, then they'll get informed. Okay, this is what my people are thinking. If you're in the office in Chicago, DC, Dallas, wherever you are, if you're insulated, you're not going to get the perspective from you have to go out. I think Cohen said you got to go out to the land. You have to go out.
That's right. And when they come out to us, these are the conversations we're bringing to them.
Yes. Let's have meaningful building encouraging conversations rather than quarreling and fighting.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, on inflation, Tinito says can be multifaceted. The inflation that arose out of COVID still has ripple effects, partly because inflation can have psychological component where sometimes price increases are driven simply by a cyclical domino effect where businesses increase prices to account for actual and expected higher costs, which eventually impact households. Unfortunately, households have the lowest bargaining power and take much longer to adapt to higher prices. Yeah, great point, Niso. Very,
brother.
Very. All right. As we wind up here, there are two important questions that I want us to address because our conversation is basically stemming from a Christian point of view. That's where we are stemming from. Okay. But before we go, I need to make sure that we acknowledge. All right. Tasha, I don't know. That's how you.
that's my grandmother watching. My cousin's. She's watching from my cousin's phone.
All right. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge these people. They've taken time out of their busy time to be with us. Hi, Grandma. Thanks for joining us, and everybody else who has joined us. My two questions to you are these: as we wind up here, you are both believers, Christians, so to speak. How will or does the U.S. election results process affect the world?
The United States is we've been called the indispensable leader of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the job of someone said this. I think I was listening to something a few days ago. Someone said this, that the policy of the president of the United States just don't affect people in Maryland, Texas, whatever. They affect people in Zambia. They affect people in India. They affect people in Europe. They affect people in Afghanistan. So,
and I've always wanted that to be addressed and dealt with in its real sense, in real life. How do the decisions or things that happen in the leadership in America, the decisions that they make,
it affects the
Afghani, the Zambian, Japanese.
It affects. I was going to use this example, for it ties into the question.
Mm-hmm.
The current administration they've tried to invest a lot in Africa, because I think what the American foreign policy folks have realized is that they've neglected Africa for too long, and now China and India are filling up the leadership vacuum. So again, the decisions that the president makes, they've made a decision to invest in Africa. We saw the vice president come to Zambia 2 years ago. The decisions, this election, whoever wins, their decisions will affect the entire world, whether we pull out of international agreements, whether we build new allies in Africa, whether we do different things. So every election is important, but again, this one is very important because whoever is the next president, I think that the global order is shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And so whoever is the next president will steer the global order, whether we, are we going to align ourselves with, democracy, or are we going to go another way? So this election has global ramifications. It affects people in Afghanistan. It affects the people in South America. It affects, how is the U.S. going to address U.S.-Africa relations? Are we going to invest in Africa, or are we going to, are we going to abandon it again? Are we going to allow, those in, China and India to, win the race to, build relationships with, African nations? So again, the simple answer is this election is very important for the world because we're all affected. That's the elementary school answer.
And the elementary school answer is always actually the best.
It's always actually the best answer.
It really is.
Rather than sounding complicated and whatever.
Yes, it affects everybody, wherever you are.
Dr. Scott, does it really matter which party line you choose to support as a Christian? What really should guide a Christian's voting pattern?
Okay,
Because
so
people try to Christianize the political parties.
political, yeah.
I've always, let me say this. You see, when you
Yes.
see me doing this,
You know you're serious.
something. Listen to me, people. This is okay. You choose your political candidate. Don't Christianize them.
Right.
Wow, that's a word.
That's
right
what
there.
we do in Zambia. Oh, please just choose your political candidate. Don't Christianize them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I needed to say
I
that.
agree. Yes.
I agree.
So does it really matter what party lines I choose to support as a Christian, and what really should guide a Christian's voting pattern?
Excellent question. As a Christian, first of all, guys, I hope this sets somebody free. We're not here to take sides. We're here to take over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is our position, is to take over. Jesus was asked the same thing. Should we pay taxes? He says, whose face is on this thing? Give to Caesar what's Caesar, give to God what's God. So he wasn't saying don't pay taxes. He reminded them of their civil responsibility. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. Why are we having these discussions? Because this is about us getting civilly getting involved in these issues, but doing it intellectually. We want to make sure that we are educated on these matters so that when we do get involved, we're not just looking at one issue or two issues. We're looking at the whole thing, because we're here to make these kingdoms of this world become the kingdoms of our God and of his Christ. And we have a responsibility. We need to be good stewards. So with that said, Uncle Nathan, you can, as a Christian, when you're looking at what's going on, it's not a black and white issue. If you're looking at this whole political thing and it's black and white, you haven't done enough research. So when it comes to even choosing who you need to choose, this is because you have done the research, you've prayed about this, and you're following your conviction on what you believe will be the best, candidate, somebody that you can keep accountable. What should not be happening is if somebody decides that they want to go with a particular person, you cannot question their Christianity. I don't think that that's fair, and we need to graduate from that level of thinking. There are many reasons why people choose who they choose. Uncle Nathan, I was telling you this last time. I was talking to a veteran, and he felt the Republican Party had not done anything for him, and so he was siding, with the Democrats. That's his story. This is what he has faced. That's his everyday living situations that he has gone through. So I think even with that, at the end of the day, it's a civil responsibility. I think that you should choose wisely, but also at the end of the day, because we are Christian, I want us to also be aware of what is God doing. If you are a Christian, in the next few weeks leading up to the election, I want you to study Daniel chapter 4. It will blow your mind, because we think
Daniel chapter 4.
Daniel chapter 4. Study that thing line by line. You're going to be introduced to something called the watcher angels. The watcher angels are delegated by God. To and fro they watch in the earth. Who's coming up next? They then go to the courts of heaven to bring that decree. In the courts of heaven, it is decided. This is where Daniel says, oh my gosh, God rules in the affairs of men. So what I want to charge every Christian is, what is God doing? See, for me, I'm doing this. I'm looking at this. I'm studying. I'm learning. I've learned so much just here in this conversation. But also at the end of the day, as a Christian, I'm going to God with somebody who flows in the Issachar anointing, understanding the seasons and the times. What is it that God wants to do? This is why even when Trump lost, because in the realm of the spirit, there's things I had seen why Trump had to lose. You see what I'm saying? So it's being aware of also, what is God doing? There was going to be an evil that was going to come over this country had he gone a second term. So even for us who are Christians, we have such an advantage, because we have this mind that can see here in the natural, but we also have the mind of Christ, which allows us to see, where's America going to be 500 years from now? You, who as a Christian with the Spirit of God inside of you, have got access to that kind of information. This is why we're not here to take sides. We're here to take over. So we're saying, God, what is your mandate in the earth? What am I seeing in the earth? And with the way that politics works, be at rest, especially if you're going, I don't even know who to choose for. This is why we're also creating this platform to say, here's the information.
Yes.
Make a wise decision.
An informed decision. Yeah.
An informed decision, and don't let anybody bully you into, you're not a believer if you choose this person. You have convictions, you have intellect, you have wisdom. Just make a well-informed decision. That's where I lie with that. Let's graduate from, you're not a Christian if you don't choose this person. That is so elementary, and we need to move past that.
That's true. All right. I'll just say that Tembo joining us from London. Thank you. I will show your comment at the end, because here we don't say people came to America, Dr. Musanje, for different reasons. Major is economic, security, education, food, etc. Let's blame the leadership in those countries. What would Jesus do with immigrants? I like that. Okay. And the same Tembo says, that's why I said I will show this. There's no censorship here. There's a white American from the US Treasury sitting in the public-private partnership in the office of the Minister of Finance. This is pure US dominance. Tembo, let's get on that and find out what is happening. All right. Lombe, good afternoon, and everybody. Banga and everybody. I do thank everybody for joining us, and what an amazing conversation. The purpose of this was to hear what Mojave's generation is thinking, and to give it perspective. Okay, we are not here to take sides. Personally, if you want to know my politics, trust me, you don't want to know my politics.
I do.
My politics are not the type of politics that you play. I don't do partisan politics. I believe in looking things in their factual perspective. And
that's right.
Moabi, you want to say something to the final thing this is, by the way, everybody, this is not the last time he's going to be here. Moabi will be doing a lot of these things.
I love it.
Well, your final word, honorable. I think this is your uncle who says honorable Mohabi. Where's that comment?
Oh my goodness.
As I look for your uncle's comment.
Let me just first thanking you, Pastor Nathan and Dr. Scott, for this wonderful platform. I think we had a very informed and productive discussion. I mean, I'm after Dr. Scott's sermon, I'm so spirit-filled. I mean, I don't know how to reply to that other than saying that, there's no Christians for Harris, there's no Christians for Trump, there's no Christians for Lungu or HH. At the end of the day, we're Christians, and we're not meant to be tourists in this world, and we have to be people of consequence. We have to be people of action. And we have to remember, Christ tells us, the government sits upon his shoulders. So it doesn't matter who's in the Oval Office, it doesn't matter who controls Congress. At the end of the day, the government sits upon his shoulders.
By the way, I heard you mention attending a conference. Is this at Agape?
Yes, it is. Agape Agents of Change annual conference. We turned 18 years old.
Wow, congratulations.
Shout out to Agape.
With my good friend, Pastor C.
Yes, Pastor C. Yes.
All of us here know, both know Bishop. All of us.
Yes.
That's awesome. Party for him tonight, right?
Yes, the galas tonight, and Bishop Joe will preach tomorrow. He's an amazing preacher. I went to Bread of Life in Zambia. I was there 2 months ago. It was an amazing experience. He's a great, phenomenal preacher.
Yes, he is.
Wow, yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Apostle Vic, thank you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, when the Lord touches you again about something else, call me again. I'll be ready.
Powerful.
Absolutely, yes. My pleasure. Yes. Thank you, Uncle, for creating this platform. You have, I was just thinking about it. I said, for over 15 years, you've been doing it every Saturday, right? Yes. Thank you for that leadership, that commitment. Thank you for creating a space for that. So, just kudos to you. You've just been a powerful voice in so many of our lives and to this world Keep doing what you're doing. And
Thank you.
so Mhambi, I'm telling you, my goodness, I'm just so excited for you and your future.
Thank you.
Don't dumb down to fit in. You keep on rising up. You're a leader of today, not for tomorrow.
Not
I need
tomorrow.
you to speak up.
Not
You know,
tomorrow. Yeah, the
don't
leader
change
of-
your message.
Yeah.
Don't compromise. Stay a man of integrity.
That's
You
right.
know, ability takes you to the top, but character and ability, character and integrity will keep you there.
Mm.
And we need more of,
We
you know,
need
what you have to
Mhambi.
say and more in your generation. Yes.
If you have
Oh.
anything you want to talk about, Mhambi, just give me a call.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Keep soaring.
We'll
Keep
bring it up.
soaring. Yeah. Thank you
Those
for
of
this
you
opportunity.
that watched us for the first time today, we do thank you. I thank you for that Mhambi brought the whole clan here.
I know, I love it.
Whole
Share
clan.
the video.
The whole clan. So that's our social media handle. We are here every Saturday, same time. If you want to get the notifications, subscribe to our YouTube channel, ZBTR TV, and click on that bell so that when we go live, it will let you know that we are here. Thank you, and have a great weekend. All right, everybody, that was our show for today, and we do appreciate you joining us. Don't forget to support us by buying a t-shirt. That way you help us going, and we continue to do this broadcast, and we're also going to support charities in Zambia that look after our elderly folks. That's the purpose that we're doing this. All right, so have a great weekend, and we shall see you next week. I'll be talking to a young man based in Mongu and how he's doing to make it work. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.